Why do the deepest thinkers often walk alone? Why do those who see more, feel more, seem to live on the edges of society, not in the center of it? It's because the world does not fear violence. It fears awareness. The moment you begin to think for yourself, to ask the questions no one else is asking, to walk down a path that isn't lit by the crowd, you become dangerous, not because you intend harm, but because you threaten the illusions people have built their lives around. You are a mirror, and most people are not ready to see their true reflection. Those who observe the world with unusual clarity often find themselves haunted by what they see. To be intelligent is not simply to know more. It is to see through things, to pierce the veil, to detect hypocrisy where others see tradition, to hear the quiet lies behind loud truths. This level of awareness comes at a price. Most people don't want depth, they want comfort. And when you bring depth, you disturb that comfort. You don't even have to speak. Your presence alone becomes disruptive because it exposes what they spent their whole lives trying to avoid. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." He believed that intelligence isolates by nature. Why? Because the more refined your perception, the more rare your understanding, the fewer people exist who can meet you there. It's not arrogance, it's reality. When you stop thinking in cliches, when you question your conditioning, when you break free from the crowd's rhythm, you step into a world of your own. And the price of freedom is often solitude. Throughout time, the truth tellers, the thinkers, the revolutionaries have not been welcomed. They have been warned, feared, exiled. Galileo was imprisoned for seeing the stars differently. Socrates was sentenced to death for asking too many questions. Tesla died in obscurity. While the world ran on electricity, he harnessed. Their crime? They thought too much. They saw too far. And in a world addicted to ignorance, insight becomes a threat. The thinker does not choose solitude. Solitude chooses a thinker, because with each new realization, something falls away. A belief, a comfort, a lie. And as illusions die, so do the connections built upon them. You find yourself in a room full of people, and yet you are light years away. Not because you want to be, but because no one else is speaking your language anymore. It's not a language of words. It's the language of depth, of silence, of nuance, of things felt before they are said. The shallow fear this, not because they hate you, but because they can't follow you. To truly understand you, they would have to tear down their entire worldview. And most people will sacrifice truth to protect their comfort. So instead of evolving with you, they'll call you distant, cold, weird, elitist, detached. But the truth is, they don't know how to meet you where you've gone. And maybe they never will. So you begin to question your own sanity. You start to dim your light, shrink your thoughts, simplify your sentences. You pretend not to notice the things others are blind to. You fake laughter. You join in on meaningless conversations. You perform, all to feel human. But deep down, you know, you're playing a role in someone else's dream. A dream that no longer feels like yours. This is the silent struggle of the aware, the burden of the deep. You don't fear the darkness. You fear the loneliness of seeing the light when everyone else is still asleep. Because the awakened are not praised. They're avoided. You speak truth and people flinch. You point out contradictions and people get angry. You question tradition and they call you rebellious. But you're not trying to destroy their world. You're just trying to find your own. And maybe to be truly free, you have to accept that your path will rarely be crowded. But this isolation is not a curse. It is a crucible, because it is in the silence of solitude that the deepest parts of your mind unfold. You begin to think thoughts no one has thought before, to feel the weight of reality in ways others are shielded from, to carry truths that do not fit inside hashtags or headlines or hashtags. And from that sacred place, you begin to create art, insight, meaning, things that will outlive you, things the shallow will one day quote, never knowing the price you paid to arrive there. Most people want to be seen, but the rarest ones want to see. And once you start seeing, you can never go back. The world loses its script. People lose their masks. Reality loses its shape. And you're left standing in the raw, unfiltered truth of it all. It's heavy, it's lonely, but it's real. And in that realness, there's a kind of peace that cannot be found in the noise of the world. You stop needing to be understood. You start learning to understand yourself. You stop chasing applause. You begin cultivating inner silence. And you realize maybe the point was never to fit in. Maybe the point was to become whole. Because the world doesn't need more people who conform. It needs those who see, who think, who break the pattern, not follow it. It needs you, not as a reflection of the world, but as a reminder that depth still exists. That truth is still sacred. That silence still speaks. And if you must walk alone to honor that, then walk proudly. Because in a shallow world, depth is rebellion. There is a strange kind of grief that comes with growing beyond your environment. It's not the grief of loss. It's the grief of separation from people, from places, from versions of yourself that no longer make sense. You begin to realize that evolution doesn't just change your thoughts. It changes your relationships. You can no longer tolerate the conversations you once entertained. You can no longer laugh at the jokes you once found amusing. You can no longer stay where ignorance feels like safety. And because of that, people begin to drift. Or rather, you begin to drift from them. Not because you are better, but because you are different now. And difference is uncomfortable. It reminds people what they refuse to become. Most people build their identities on imitation. They wear masks not because they are hiding something, but because they were never taught how to live without one. So when someone walks in without pretense, when someone speaks what others only think, they don't know whether to admire them or fear them, because truth is magnetic, but also radioactive. It pulls people in, but it also burns away the lies they protected. That's why people say they want honesty, until they hear it. They say they want freedom, until they see what it costs. They say they want wisdom, until it exposes the foolishness they built their lives around. So what do? They retreat, they attack, they label, because if they can reduce you to a stereotype, they don't have to reckon with your message. This is a lonely fate of the deep soul. You will be misunderstood. You will be misread. You will be seen as a threat, even when you carry only peace. And yet, you must keep walking, because the path of consciousness is not a popularity contest. It is a pilgrimage, and those who awaken will always be tested, not by enemies, but by the pressure of staying true to themselves in a world that rewards masks. You will be tempted to shrink, to simplify, to surrender your edge for the illusion of belonging. But don't, because every time you betray your truth for acceptance, you lose a piece of yourself. And eventually, the applause won't be enough. The smiles won't feel real. The comfort will feel hollow, because deep down, you'll know you are not being loved. You are being performed for, and the soul was never meant to live behind glass. The greatest illusion this world ever sold is that fitting in is the goal. But what is the point of blending in if you have to disappear to do it? Why become a watered-down version of yourself just to sit at a table built for conformity? Real power is not found in being liked. It's found in being authentic, even if that means being alone, even if that means walking to the fire of misunderstanding, because on the other side of that fire is freedom, and not the kind sold in slogans or self-help books, but the kind that cannot be taken from you, because it was never given to you. It was earned through pain, through loss, through the sacred breaking that comes with becoming who you really are. Stay the course, even when your voice trembles, even when the world tells you to be quieter, softer, smaller, because those who change the world are almost always the ones that try to silence first, not by force, but by isolation. But isolation is not your enemy. It is your forge, where distractions fall away, where identity becomes solid, where power begins to hum beneath your skin like a quiet revolution. Do not fear your own becoming. Do not run from your difference. Do not hide your depth to soothe shallow minds, because those who see too much were never meant to stay hidden. They were meant to become light. Even if that light blinds before it illuminates, there comes a moment in every awakened life, a moment where silence becomes louder than noise, where solitude becomes fuller than crowds, where stillness becomes a portal. You don't choose this moment, it chooses you. Maybe it's triggered by heartbreak, or disillusionment, or a long stare into the mirror that finally breaks the illusion. Whatever it is, it cracks you open. And what spills out is not weakness. It's everything you have been hiding from yourself. The thoughts you never voiced. The dreams you buried to be realistic. The pain you masked with performance. The questions you suppressed because the answers scared you. And now, there's no turning back. You're no longer interested in being entertained. You crave truth. Not the kind that comes in slogans or soft affirmations, but the raw, aching kind. The kind that cuts before it heals. This is where the alchemy begins. Real transformation does not happen in temples or retreats. It happens in the deep, private places of the soul, the inner caverns, the midnight wrestling, the 3 a.m. questions that refuse to leave you alone. This is the furnace where the ego burns, where the false self dies, where the true you begins to take form. And it is not glamorous. It's not a highlight reel. It's a spiritual death, a shedding, a brutal unbecoming. But from that fire, something sacred rises, a presence, a clarity, a power that was there all along, just buried beneath noise. And once it's awake, you cannot put it back to sleep. From that point on, your very existence becomes a disruption. You don't try to rebel. You simply live in a way that others aren't ready to witness. You speak plainly. You question deeply. You detach from the games everyone else is still playing. And this makes people nervous. Not because you are wrong, but because you make them feel the truth they've avoided. They'll try to explain you away. They'll call you intense, too serious, too much. But what they're really saying is, you make me feel things I'm not ready to face. You see, the deep don't just speak differently. They see differently. They feel the weight of words. They notice what others ignore. They live in dimensions most never enter. And the shallow are terrified of this, not because you threaten them physically, but because your very presence disrupts the delicate fiction of their reality. You remind them that there's more, and most people aren't ready for more. So you learn to carry your depth with grace, quietly, like a lantern in the night. You stop trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop wasting your energy trying to convince others to grow. Because true transformation is not something you can force. It's something that must be chosen. And many will never choose it. Because ignorance is easier. It's safer to mock the seeker than to become one. It's easier to laugh at depth than to admit you're drowning in your own shallowness. And so, you keep walking, not because you're arrogant, but because you've seen too much to stop now. The path of awareness is not straight. It's not clean. It's not predictable. It is a spiral, a descent and ascent, a paradox. You lose yourself to find yourself. You fall apart to become whole. You feel completely alone, only to discover that you were never truly separate. And this is the great mystery, that beyond the veil of ego, beyond the masks, beyond the noise of the world, there is a stillness that has always known your name. It waits, patiently, silently, until you're ready to come home. And once you touch it, really touch it, you realize that you were never broken. You were only buried under roles, expectations, distractions, lies. And now that you've dug yourself out, you can finally stand in your full light. Not the light that pleases others, but the light that burns away illusion. And if that light scares people, so be it. Let them fear what they do not yet understand. You didn't come here to be understood. You came here to be whole. Society has always feared what it cannot label. From prophets in deserts, to philosophers in exile, to mystics locked away in silence, the pattern is clear. Those who see beyond the veil are rarely welcomed by those who live beneath it. And so, you become the archetype they never saw coming. Not the rebel who rages, but the sage who walks quietly through the noise, untamed by it, Because when you no longer need to belong, you become ungovernable, not in chaos, not in violence, but in presence. You are not swayed by opinion, not seduced by trends, not manipulated by fear. This is where your power begins to terrify. The world is not threatened by the loud. It's threatened by the quiet ones who see, the ones who know how power moves behind curtains, the ones who feel the temperature of a room shift before a word is spoken, the ones who can sit in stillness and read entire lifetimes in silence. These are the ones the system cannot control, because they've mastered the one thing the world fears most, their own shadow. You see, shadow work is not a spiritual luxury. It is a necessity. Until you face the darkest corners of your own mind, you will project that darkness onto everything around you, and the world has made an entire economy from that projection. Hatred, division, consumerism, they all feed on people who have never gone within. Because if you don't understand your shadow, you become a puppet to it. But once you begin the descent, the honest, brutal descent into your own wounds, you stop looking for villains out there. You begin to meet the demons within. And strangely, they are not here to destroy you. They are here to show you where you've abandoned yourself, the anger you suppress, the fear you dismiss, the grief you deny. These are not enemies. They are messages. Every unhealed part of you is simply asking to be seen. But society does not teach us how to see. It teaches us how to numb, how to scroll past it, shop past it, drink past it, work past it. And when you stop running, when you finally sit with your own discomfort, you become something rare. You become whole, not perfect, not polished, but real. And nothing disrupts the illusion more than someone who is unapologetically real. That is why the awakened are often outcasts, because they don't fit in a system built on illusion. They see the cracks in the foundation. They question the rituals everyone else calls normal. They are not cynical. They are aware, and awareness is not easy. It costs you the comfort of ignorance. It costs you the applause of the crowd. It costs you the illusion of certainty. But in return, you gain vision. You gain truth. You gain yourself. And once you have yourself, fully, unapologetically, radically, no one can take that from you. You are no longer waiting for permission to exist. You are no longer begging to be seen. You are no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. You are, and that is enough. So let the world misunderstand you. Let them question your silence. Let them mock your depth, because one day they will quote your words. They will mimic your walk. They will seek your guidance. But by then, you will have long stopped needing their approval. You'll be too busy building something eternal, not in stone, but in soul. You are not here to convince them. You are here to awaken them. And sometimes, awakening begins with rejection. So carry your solitude like a crown, wear your depth like armor, and walk like the storm you were born to become. Because if the shallow are disturbed by your presence, good. It means you've stopped dimming your light. As you walk this path, the solitary path, you will begin to notice something strange happening. You will notice how the world starts to reflect you, not in the superficial ways, but in the profound, cosmic ways. Everything, it seems, becomes a mirror. The people you meet are no longer just people. They are echoes of your own inner world. They reflect the parts of you that you've forgotten, the parts of you that you've neglected, the parts of you that you've never dared to meet. They become teachers. They become guides. They become tools for your inner transformation. And this is the mystical law of reflection. The world is a reflection of what is within you. Your relationships are mirrors. Your struggles are mirrors. Your joys are mirrors. And once you see this, once you understand that everything you experience is a reflection of your own consciousness, you stop blaming the world for your pain. You realize that everything you encounter is an opportunity to see more deeply into yourself, to meet the parts of yourself you've avoided, to recognize your projections and strip them away. But this level of awareness is not without its cost. You see, when you awaken to the truth of the world as mirror, you also awaken to the truth of your own limitations. You will come face to face with the parts of you that are still asleep. You will come face to face with your unconscious fears, your inherited trauma, your self-sabotaging beliefs. And this is the hard part. The ego will fight you every step of the way. It will cling to comfort, to familiarity, to the illusion of control. It will try to convince you that the world is a hostile place, that you are a victim of circumstance, that it's easier to remain small. But here's the thing. You cannot transform by staying small. True power is not found in shrinking. It's found in expanding into the full awareness of who you are and the full potential of who you can become. And this expansion begins in the solitude you've cultivated, in the silence where you face the darkest corners of yourself. When you sit with your darkness, it no longer has power over you. This is why the ancient initiates, those who walk the path of the wise, always sought solitude as a part of their spiritual journey. They knew that only in the deepest silence could the truth be revealed. Only in the stillness of the soul could the light of higher wisdom shine through. They didn't seek solitude to escape the world. They sought it to master themselves. Because, in the end, the only true battle is a battle with your own mind. The only true enemy is the one that lives within you. And once you conquer that enemy, you become untouchable. The world will continue to judge you. It will continue to try to box you into categories, to define you by your past, to label you by your failures. But once you realize that these labels are just illusions, once you've seen to the veil of society's expectations, they no longer affect you. You are free, free from the judgments of others, free from the expectations of a world that doesn't understand you, free to become the full expression of who you were always meant to be. This is the ultimate price of knowing, the price of walking the path of depth. It is the price of becoming who you truly are. It is the price of living beyond the limits of ordinary perception. It is the price of shedding the old skin of identity and embracing the eternal truth of your soul. But the reward is worth it. The world cannot give you the wisdom that comes from facing yourself. It cannot hand you the peace that comes from inner surrender. It cannot offer you the power that arises from mastering your own mind. This is why the awakened soul becomes a quiet leader. They do not lead with words. They lead with presence. They lead with the frequency they radiate. They lead by simply being. And those who are ready to awaken will find them. They will be drawn to the light of authenticity. They will be magnetized by the depth of your being. But not everyone will be ready, and that's okay. Those who are not ready will recoil. They will try to bring you down to their level. They will try to convince you that you are delusional. They will try to convince you that your depth is too much for them to handle. And when this happens, remember this: you are not here to fit in. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to awaken those who are ready, and that's more than enough. Every journey towards true awakening is a dance with archetypes. These universal symbols, these ancient patterns, they exist in all of us, whether we acknowledge them or not. They are not mere stories, not just old myths from forgotten ages. They are living energies that pulsate through the veins of your very existence. The hero, the shadow, the wise old sage, the trickster, the maiden, the king, the rebel. These archetypes are the masks we wear throughout life. They are the roles we step into, sometimes unknowingly, as we navigate the labyrinth of human experience. But here's the secret. You are not just one archetype. You are all of them. And until you understand the full spectrum of who you are, you will remain trapped in one limited, one-dimensional role. You see, life is not about being a hero. It's about learning to embody every role you are called to play. Sometimes you will be the fool, other times the warrior, sometimes the lover, and other times the king or queen of your own destiny. The key is this: you must learn to embody them fully, because you cannot defeat the shadow unless you first embrace it. The shadow, this aspect of the psyche, is not an enemy to be vanquished. It is a hidden part of your own consciousness that demands integration. It is the unconscious material that has been rejected, denied, or suppressed. And it is the very thing that holds your power. When you awaken to the shadow, You stop running from what you've been avoiding. Instead of being terrified of your imperfections, your traumas, your darker desires, you begin to understand them. You begin to transmute them into wisdom. You stop hiding from yourself. In this process, you become whole. You no longer live in a fragmented state, trying to escape pieces of yourself. You accept the fullness of who you are, light and dark, beauty and beast, sacred and profane. And once you integrate this darkness, you discover something extraordinary. The shadow holds the keys to your most potent power. The very thing you were running from is the very thing that can unlock your true potential. The trouble is that most people are terrified of the shadow. They fear the unknown parts of themselves. They're afraid of what they might discover, and so they live in denial. They continue to wear the mask that society expects them to wear. The mask of I'm okay. The mask of I'm successful. The mask of I'm happy. But beneath those masks lies a prison of self-deception. And this is where the archetype of the trickster comes in. The trickster, this unpredictable force, is the energy that disrupts your carefully constructed life. It shatters your illusions, brings chaos to your order, forces you to confront your deepest fears. But here's the beauty of the trickster. Through disruption comes transformation. The trickster's role is to show you that you cannot control everything. That life is not a neatly packaged experience. It is wild. It is unpredictable. It is full of paradoxes. And when you finally surrender to this, when you stop trying to hold everything together, you find a deep, unshakable peace. But there's more. This awakening, this inner revolution, it doesn't stop at confronting your own shadow. As you begin to step into the fullness of your being, you will inevitably come face to face with the archetype of the wise old sage. The sage is the part of you that knows, that sees, that understands the deeper truths of existence. The sage is the voice within that knows everything you need to know, but it only speaks when you are ready to hear it. This wisdom, this intuitive knowing, is available to you at all times, but it can only be accessed through stillness, through solitude, through the willingness to be patient with the process of awakening. The sage does not force. The sage simply is. And when you begin to embody the sage within yourself, you find that all the answers you've been searching for are always inside you. You stop looking outside for approval, for validation, for the right way to live. You begin to trust your own inner compass. But all of this, the journey of self-discovery, the meeting of archetypes, the integration of shadow, this process is not easy. It's not a quick fix. It's not an overnight transformation. The soul's evolution is a long and sometimes painful journey. It requires patience. It requires perseverance. It requires the willingness to walk into the unknown. But the reward? The reward is becoming a living expression of your true self. You become a master of your own life, not because you have control over everything, but because you are no longer afraid of your own power. You are no longer afraid of your own truth. You stand in the fullness of your being, free from constraints of society's expectations, and free from the fears that once held you captive. You live as the hero of your own journey. You embody the wise sage. You play the role of the trickster when necessary. And you walk with grace and confidence, knowing that you are both light and shadow, both masculine and feminine, both human and divine. The end part 8. At the heart of every soul's journey lies an ancient truth. You are not here to become something you are not. You are here to remember who you already are. This path, the path of depth, the path of awakening, is not about acquiring knowledge. It's about shedding the layers of illusion that have been placed over your true essence. It's about peeling back the stories, the labels, the conditioning that have obscured your divine nature. And when you begin this process of shedding, you will realize that you were never lost. You simply forgot. You were never broken. You simply needed to wake up. At the core of your being lies a perfect, undivided consciousness, a consciousness that is pure, unchanged, timeless. But as you journey through life, you accumulate experiences, trauma, joy, pain, love, loss, that shape how you see yourself. You forget the truth of who you are, and you begin to identify with the roles and masks that the world imposes upon you. But when you begin to awaken, to remember, you start to realize that these roles are not you. They are simply projections. This is the ultimate purpose of your spiritual journey, to return to the unbroken, undivided state of consciousness that you were born with. And this return is not an easy one. It requires radical acceptance. It requires the courage to face all the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It requires the ability to let go of everything you thought you knew. You cannot return to your true self while still holding on to the past. You cannot fully integrate the shadow while still clinging to the stories that keep you small. You must let go, and in letting go, you will experience a shift, a profound transformation, where you begin to perceive reality not as fragmented, but as whole. This is a shift from the illusion of separation to the truth of unity. Unity is not something you acquire. It is something you recognize. When you begin to awaken to the truth of who you are, you realize that all things are interconnected. You are not separate from the world around you. You are not separate from the people you meet. You are not separate from the universe itself. There's only one consciousness, and you are an expression of it. This is the secret that the mystics have known for centuries, the secret of oneness. The ego tells you that you are separate, that you are an individual, that you are alone in this vast world. This is a secret that the mystics have known for centuries, the secret of oneness. The ego tells you that you are separate, that you are an individual, that you are alone in this vast world. But the soul knows the truth. There is no separation. The path of spiritual awakening is a journey back to this realization that you are the universe experiencing itself, that you are both the observer and the observed, that you are both the wave and the ocean. Once you recognize this truth, the world no longer feels like a battleground. It no longer feels like something you have to fight against. Instead, it becomes a dance of unity, a dance of flow, a dance of deep connection to all that is. And in this dance, you find peace. Not a peace that comes from external circumstances, but a peace that comes from within. A peace that arises when you realize that all of existence is a reflection of your own being. A peace that is grounded in the knowledge that you are not just a small, insignificant part of the universe. You are the universe itself. Now, let's speak of something even more profound. What happens when you fully embody this unity? When you fully realize that there is no separation between you and everything else? You become a living expression of the divine. You become an instrument of love. You become a beacon of light. You become a force of peace. But here's the twist. This is not something you strive for. It's something you embody naturally when you let go of your attachments, when you stop trying to control, when you stop trying to force the world into your image. The world is not here to serve you. You are here to serve the world. You are here to be a conduit for divine energy, a channel for love, compassion, and wisdom, a mirror for others to see themselves more clearly. And when you do this, when you live from this place of unity and wholeness, you become a leader, but not in the way the world teaches leadership. You lead by example. You lead with integrity. You lead with grace. You lead with humility. And those who are ready to awaken will follow. They will be drawn to your light. They will feel the pull of your energy. And in their presence, they will also awaken to the truth of who they are. But remember, this is not a journey for the faint of heart. This path requires courage. It requires strength. It requires a willingness to face your fears and break free from the shackles of your ego. The price of knowing is high, but the reward is beyond measure. You will become who you were always meant to be. Whole, complete, divine. You will walk through the world not as a seeker, but as a master of your own life, a master of your own soul. And in that mastery, you will find the greatest joy, not in external achievement, not in fame or fortune, but in the quiet knowing that you are living in alignment with your true self. You are living in alignment with the divine, and that is the ultimate reward.